So newsflash, the stock market went up this week, and then it went down. Anyone surprised? No, of course you're not surprised, because this happens every time. And guess what? In every transaction that happened in the stock market this week, someone lost and someone gained. And usually the reason why people gained is because someone else lost. They gained because someone else lost. That's how the stock market works, those of you who are familiar with the system. Now, I ask you, is that fair? Somebody would look at it and say, that's not really fair. Someone gained because somebody else has lost. And so there's a lot of talk in our culture today, in our society, about fairness and equality. I hear these words ring all the time, nonstop. And many voices speak of equal rights, equal access, equal pay, equal treatments of all sorts. I mean, our society, I'd say in the last decade especially, I just don't want to talk about anything else except those things. So I have to say that's really admirable. We've come a long way. For many people have been mistreated in history just for being different. Ask the Jews, we know. And I have to say this is something good. Whenever people are mistreated or treated differently than everybody else, there's something within us that I think does not sit well. We get bothered by it. It just does not feel right. And I think that's a common human feeling, and I think that's good. We should not feel right inside when someone is being treated unfairly, improperly. Something within us bothers us when we see this sort of inequality. And it should. And I think it's very positive. And the fact that we are talking more about fairness and equality is a good thing, considering that as a society, our history speaks of all sorts of pogroms and persecutions and lynchings and so on and so forth. So hopefully we're on a better trajectory, because at least if we're talking about these things, we're aware that we should be just and equal and fair, or at least try to be so. But there is a huge problem with this whole entire notion of equality and justice. We humans have absolutely no idea of what is equal, what is fair, what is just. And we humans don't even know if it's possible for us to make it so that somebody else gets justice and equality without someone else being shorted in the process. It's like a stock market. Somebody wins, but in order to win, somebody else had to lose. We humans fail to have this ability to truly make justice just, to truly make equality equal. This is where we try really hard. We take the weak and we protect them from the strong, and the weak never grow a muscle to defend themselves in the future. We take from the rich, give it to the poor, and poverty doesn't stop. It just keeps on going. We think we can solve these problems of inequality, and we try, and we should, because it's the right thing to do. But every time we fail. Why do we fail? Because, you see, we have this strange notion that somehow we can do this without Hashem. That we could do this in our own strength, that we don't need Him. You ask people, who should be the one to decide what is just and what is unjust, what is right and what is wrong, what is equal and what is fair? And a lot of times, of course, there will be somebody who will step up. But I say, do we humans even have the ability and the right and the capacity to make such a call of what is just and what is unjust, what is right, what is equal, who should get more equality and who should get less equality, which is pretty much how it works with us. That's what we do. We just redistribute. So when we try to do this without Hashem, this is the mistake that we make over and over, time and time, again and again. So people read the Torah, and you know what they see? They see God of inequality. And I understand how, and I understand why. Because as this story that we read in, for example, in Korach, it's full of inequality. From our human perspective, it's inequality. But you see, what you and I think of inequality is not exactly always what God thinks of inequality. From our human perspective, we read Korach and we say, okay, Korach, nasty rebellion. And why are they rebelling? Because they want equal rights. They want to have the same privileges and rights as Moshe and Aaron has, so they fight for those rights. Well, you know how the story ends, right? It does not end well for them. So why does it not end for them? Because Hashem told them what they should be doing. But they did not want to be happy with what Hashem told them to do. They wanted to do something else that somebody else was supposed to be doing. They wanted someone else's position, someone else's job. So as we read, this parsha is full of inequality. Later on in this parsha, in Numbers 18, we read that Hashem decrees that Aaron and his sons alone, they shall bear the avon, the iniquity of the holy place. Which basically means anything that goes wrong in the holy precincts, guess who gets held responsible? Aaron and his family. It's his fault. You come, mess it up, who's at fault? Aaron. That doesn't seem fair, does it? I don't know. Maybe that's not all that good for Aaron and his family. Now, as you keep reading, Hashem explains that, by the way, all of the holy offerings that are brought to the temple, and that means the new wine, the best of the nicest fresh olive oil, all the first fruits, all the gifts, they belong to Aaron and his family. They're for the priests. You say, wait a minute, I broke my back working on that, getting that, and I just give it to them and they just eat it? Yep, that's what Hashem says. Well, you're going to say, well, that's good for the priests, but it doesn't seem fair to me. That's not really right. So it's theirs in perpetuity. That's what Hashem says. Then you keep reading. And Hashem says that, oh, by the way, the Levites, Aaron and his family, they're not going to have any land. All of you Israelites get to have land. You get to have your plots. Aaron is not going to get any physical inheritance. His family, Levites, they're not going to have any land at all. Well, you're going to say, well, how is that equal? Not exactly. So you see, as you read through the Torah, on one hand, the Levites and Aaron get a pretty good deal. And you may look at them and say, I want what they have. But on the other hand, there's the flip side. They have responsibility for the holy place. Sole responsibility. They don't get to own land. Every Israelite gets to farm their land or lease their land. They can engage in a craft of some sort. They can become an artisan. But if you're a Levite, if you're a descendant of Aaron, your only career choice is to serve in the temple. That's it. Very limited abilities. But then you don't look at that. You look at, hey, people bring gifts to the temple and they get to eat the best. They eat the first fruits. They eat the choice, everything. Why? Because those are the things that are brought to the Lord. And so a lot of times we look at one side of their privileges and we don't see the responsibilities. We don't see the flip side of things. So, you see, if we keep reading Torah like this, what we see is this inequality at work. We see God of inequality everywhere we look, if that's how you're going to read the Torah. But as I said, we people have a strange ideas about what is equal and just and right. We tend to make one cardinal mistake, and we tend to see equality sometimes as sameness. And equality and sameness are not identical. You see, sameness is like this. You get 5 chocolates, your neighbor gets 5 chocolates, right? That's sameness. Unless if you really don't like chocolate. Then you're like, this is a bum deal. I did not want this. But your neighbor got 5 chocolates, so guess what? That's what you get. 5 chocolates too. You see, that's sameness. Sameness and equality. They don't really work the same way. So one of the lessons that Korach teaches us as we read from this passage is that we're not all the same. In fact, we are different. And we're not meant to function in the same way. Some of us are called one calling and the others are other. And God alone appoints those things. He's the one who sets what's right in our lives, not us. So my advice to you today is never look at someone else and think that they have things better than you do. Do not fixate on their advantages, on their gifts and benefits that they somehow have, that thinking of them that they're somehow superior. Because this is what happened in Torah. That's exactly what went on. But you do not know the other side. Trust your Maker. Hashem alone knows the whole entire equation. Think of it as an equation. And what makes you, you, Hashem knows. And He's given you the things that make you, you. So grow. Become all that you can be. Reach your full potential wherever the Lord has called you, but do not become covetous or resentful of what others have. Because guess what? What you have is exactly what Hashem has given you. And you can grow in that, and you can become even better. But what Hashem has endowed you are all good things. But don't look at someone else and think that somehow they got what you should have received from Hashem. That is not true. Hashem gave you what you need to fulfill the task that you were appointed in this world. And guess what? No one else was appointed a task identical to yours. So live this, and Hashem will be praised in everything you do. Shabbat Shalom.